In this video, I'm going to break down how to make Lil Baby type beats that sound like this.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
First, I started with FL keys and I just started putting in some notes, seeing what sounded good, and I got a pattern that sounds like this. Extremely simple pattern, but I knew I wanted to add a bunch of layers and kind of make it complex in that way. So I took that pattern, I loaded it up onto Analog Lab, and I use this cinema layer, which sounds like this. And I put gross beat on this, just a simple halftime. After that, I added another Analog Lab. All these are just like default Analog Lab presets. I don't have any paid banks or anything like that. The only bank that I do use are the free ones from Producer Grind. So this patch sounds like this. So it's kind of like a piano sound, and all I did was put a half beat gate on it. Layered with that original pad. Sounds pretty good. Then I added a violin from Flex. If you're not using Flex, you're kind of sleeping. Flex is a default plugin from FL Studio, and it has some of the best sounds in here. And I feel like so many people try and get like Serum or all these other like string banks and Contact when you have Flex available. This is great if you don't have any of those other options. So I added these violins. And the processing on this, I have a little bit of Devil Lock just to give it a little bit of distortion. I have a magic switch and then an EQ. After that, I knew I needed something to give it a little bit more movement. It seemed a little basic at this point. So I browsed the sequence section of Analog Lab and found this New Vision. Adds a lot of movement, and what I did here was took the original signal, put it to this mixer slot 4, and then also routed it to mixer slot 5 and put gross beat on that. And so soloed out, this is what it sounds like without the gross beat. Sounds pretty cool. And then with the gross beat, just gives it some extra bounce, extra body, really fills out the melody. Then I just added these two accents here. This is a kit that I got from BeatStars Pro Kits from Mo Money. It has some great sounds in here, actually. Let me bring up the kit. He's got a bunch of loops in here. The loops are really good. A bunch of one-shots as well. The one-shots are sick. I come back to his one-shots pretty frequently for these types of beats. I solo these out first. I mean, this one's just a piano. It's just dark piano, and then this violin tension. Just one note. And I made the note follow the root note of the original melody that I programmed. So with the melody in that spot, I thought it was good enough to actually start adding drums and everything. Now for the drums, I kept it pretty simple. Let me solo these out, and I'll move to the second half of the hook because that's where all the drums are. pretty simple pattern. The hi-hats are just really, really simple and repetitive. And that's it. I just copied that over. An open hat. And then another open hat on the 1. Of course, I had to use the Spins 808. And then I just put a kick on top of that. And so all together, key with these kinds of beats, number 1 is arrangement, and number 2 is ear candy. All of this stuff down here I consider ear candy. We have transitions that lead into the hook. Without that transition there, it sounds pretty basic. It just sounds too sudden. So I added that, and then here I added another little piece of ear candy. I don't even know what it is. It's just a trap transition. I stretched it so that it would fit a little bit more on beat. I was torn between this timing and this timing. I ultimately went with this one because I felt like it ended on beat. I don't know. I just liked the way it sounded a little bit better. Kind of kept the movement of the track. And then another one I added at the end here. And this was another one where I played with the timing. I was stuck between that or this. Which, I mean, that doesn't sound bad. I don't mind that. That one, I don't know. I just like this timing a little bit better. If you are using transitions and ear candy like this, just always turn on stretch mode up here and just hold Alt and grab the end and play with the timing. You can just align the transients to the grid. That's literally all I'm doing here. So I see that last transient right here, and I'm just lining it with this grid line here. Now for the arrangement, I started with all of the instruments in the intro, and then the first part of the hook I simplified and I took out the violins and the arpeggio, so we just get and then for the second half I actually added the arpeggio back in. Just felt like it added some movement to the track and didn't make it sound too boring. Then leading into the verse, I added this reverse crash. And I went super simple with it. I just have the violin tension and the gated piano. I simplified the 808 progression. All I did was take some notes out. I didn't really change any notes. Then for the second half of the verse, I kind of made it kind of like a breakdown. So I have the dark piano, the violin tension. I added back the Analog Lab pad and the violin. And then I added a bass from Analog Lab. The bass that I'm using is Weekend Reese from the Producer Grind free packs. So all together it sounds like this.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
And then we're right back into the hook, and I just took all of this and copied it over. I find people tend to click on and listen to shorter beats rather than longer beats. You know, in my opinion, I think shorter beats are better because so long as you have all of the elements that you want, all the parts that you want, an audio engineer who's actually recording the artist can just chop parts and move them around and extend the beat if they need to. Having a shorter beat leads to more plays because they have to keep replaying it if they want to write to it on YouTube. And overall, that's kind of like a bit of a sales tactic that I've picked up watching a bunch of other producers and seeing how they sell beats. I'm gonna let this beat play out here so you can hear the whole thing. But if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe. It really helps me out. In the description, you'll find links to my sound pack services and beat store. Feel free to tap in with me on any of them. I'm really looking forward to working with you guys and connecting some more. If you have any questions, DM me over on Instagram at Produced by Delgado. I'm happy to chop it up and connect with you. I'll see you guys again next week.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.